With Liquor Barn, you can shop your favorite bourbon, that perfect bottle of wine, or discover something new. To place an order for pickup or delivery, download the Liquor Barn app, visit liquorbarn.com, or call your nearest Liquor Barn location. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our email list for all the latest news on products, promotions, and events. Liquor Barn, where Kentuckians go to celebrate life. Cheers!
We're all familiar with finishing bourbon in wine barrels, but finishing in a rosé cask? Now we're venturing into uncharted territory. For Penelope Bourbon, that uncharted territory lies in the southern Rhone region of France. Their rosé cask finish marries Penelope's straight bourbon whiskey with French Grenache rosé wine cask. The result is a unique aromatic blend of strawberry, floral, and herbal flavors. Take a sip of this one-of-a-kind bourbon at penelopebourbon.com. Are you ready to turn your passion for spirits into a thriving business? Welcome to Regard Law Group, your trusted partner in Central Kentucky. Whether you're looking to set up a distillery, create a liquor brand, or open a bar or restaurant, we've got your back. From licensing to permits, we navigate the legal landscape so you can focus on what you do best. Plus, we handle corporate matters, business litigation, and even help you raise funds from investors. Don't go it alone. Call Regard Law Group today and let's make your vision a reality. Visit regardlawgroup.com for more information.
Limestone Farms bourbons are like a secret portal to a world of rich flavors where high proof meets smooth satisfaction. Every barrel is meticulously crafted and blended with a specific message in mind. Experience clean delineated flavor profiles that will have you engaged from the first sip to the final drop, making your palate beg for just one more taste. Limestone Farms, bringing heritage home.
Welcome to the Bourbon Life Podcast, your source for all things bourbon. Join your hosts, Mark and Matt, as they drink and review bourbons, share news about upcoming events, interview the who's who in the bourbon world, and, most importantly, bring you along for the fun of living the bourbon life. Now, here's your hosts, Mark and Matt.
All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight in the Bourbon Life Studios, otherwise known as my basement, it is my good friend and co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing down here, man?
Mark, I am doing great. This has been a surprise episode already. I didn't know we were going to be live, so
you thought we were squad casting it tonight?
I did. I thought we were going to be remote, but this is so great. We've got our guests live here in the studios. But I'm doing well, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. You know, this won't come out probably for a few weeks, so by the time this comes out, it'll be old news. But you did Ironman Louisville yesterday, Matt, so I'm going to brag on you for a second because you finished 4th in your age group. You finished 9th for all male contenders and 10th overall out of over 2,000 competitors, man. So you had a great race. Congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Mark. It was good to see you out there.
Yeah. Hey, so I was going to ask you, does that mean that did you actually qualify for the championship from that race? Or?
I would have had a world championship slot, but
you chose not to.
Yeah,
you did turn it down. Okay. Because I know you said you'd do that. You turn it down because it's in New Zealand, or no, it's going to be in Spain next year, right?
Yeah, would have had the choice of New Zealand or Spain, but turned them down.
Man, that must feel great to be able to be like, yeah, I don't want to go.
Well, give somebody else an opportunity that really wants it.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, man. Great race, Matt. Always proud of you when you do well like that, for sure, man. So
thanks, Dad.
Yeah. You're welcome. Okay, let's move on. We're the Liquor Barn. We're the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support. We appreciate the support of all of our sponsors. We could not bring you this show every week without all of our great sponsors. So thank you to them. Matt, with that said, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight here live in the studios?
Absolutely. On the show this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever it is, you're getting your Bourbon Life Podcast and your Bourbon Life Fix. We have the CEO and founder of Fortune's Fool Whiskey, Juliet Schmalz. Juliet, welcome onto the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming over.
Yeah, from Indianapolis, right?
Yep.
Man, that's awesome. And when you said that, you're like, oh, I'll just come down. I'm like, are you sure? But
yeah, I'm so excited to do this.
Well, I appreciate it. And you surprised Matt.
Absolutely. You sure did. So thank you for the wonderful surprise.
That was so funny. When the Ring doorbell went off and he's like, what? She's here? I'm like, yep, we're doing it live. So, but you and I had the chance to meet a month or so ago here in Lexington. You were in town.
Yep.
And we got the chance to get together and have some coffee and drank some pours out of the trunk of your car.
Yes.
which was great. And I'm not going to say the results, but after drinking that, I was like, we need to have her on the show for sure. So we're happy you decided to drive down and join us in person. Makes it a lot more fun for us.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Now I feel bad because I guess we should have introduced you as Dr. Juliet, but we did not.
Technically, but
yeah. So
usually Julie.
well, let's talk about the nose. No, let's see. What do you want to do? Let's talk about what we have poured up first, probably, right before we get into the conversation. So why don't you do you go by Julie? Or you, Julie?
I really do go by Julie. I've been using Juliet when I'm talking about my whiskey
Well,
brand
we're gonna call you
because it's
Juliet.
part of the
right.
theme.
Well, we'll stick with Juliet tonight.
Okay, sure,
How's that? Yeah. Well, Juliet, would you like to tell us about what we're going to be drinking in this first round? I'll hold the
Yes.
bottle up.
So our Fortune's Fool's very first release is the Prelude Straight Rye Whiskey, made here in the great state of Kentucky. It is a 10-barrel dump of rye whiskey at 62% rye, 30% corn, 8% malted barley. It is barrel strength at 109.6 proof.
Wow.
And it was aged 2 years, 8 months in the world's finest barrels.
And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit, because when you say world's finest barrels, you really do mean the world's finest barrels. So we'll kind of jump into that. Matt, what do you pick up? Speaking of jumping in, you already down there nosing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Ohio River water destroy your palate, man, or can you still pick stuff up?
I think I can still pick stuff up. We'll see. The Ohio River makes its revenge yet. I'm not saying I'm out of the woods after swimming in there.
Spending 30 plus minutes in the Ohio River yesterday.
The nose on this is really lovely. I can tell the influence of really great oak on it. It's got those nice toasted, sweet, like marshmallow, like toasted oak qualities to it, with almost like this subtle smoky flavor to round it out. And the rye really brings along a good like herbal spice. There's like mint syrup, almost like a lemon balm or thyme note on it as well. I think that balances out with like the sweet smoky flavors kind of play in with the corn. It's almost like roast or grilled corn, like a street corn aroma coming off of it as well. But I can tell that this has been treated with really, really great care and respect out of like really nice oak. Like that definitely shines through, especially on that nose. It's just like it just brings a picture of like these really, really the lovely toasted oak.
Yeah, and I think the mash bill, because you mentioned that, is 62% rye, so it's not a 95.5 where you're going to get overwhelmed with the rye spice. So you do have a large percentage of corn in here, so there's that sweetness that comes through. I can detect grain, but it's not like a youthful grain. And I think that was the thing that really impressed me the most when we met, when you let me sample both of these, was the fact that, because we talked about the age at first when we met, and this is, what was it, 32 months, right? 2 years and 8 months.
Yeah.
So I think when you say that about a whiskey, you automatically have these preconceived notions of, oh, this is going to be really young, it's going to be really, really grain forward, it's going to have all these certain aspects. And then when I tasted it, I was like, wait a second. I mean, there's a big difference between what I anticipated and what it actually came across at. And that's what, like Matt was saying, the different nose, the aromas that come out of this, it doesn't nose to me like a whiskey that's, a little over 2.5 years old at all. And I think Matt's probably correct that a lot of that is the influence from that barrel, which we'll talk about in the second round. But yeah, I get that sweetness, Matt. You talked about like street corn, grilled corn, the sweetness. I get that, but I also get a lot of that spiciness. The lemongrass, I think that's a great note. The herbalness that comes off of that rye, I really, really like that note as well. So looking forward, we'll do the palate in the second round. We've got 2 expressions. We're drinking 3 tonight, so we'll save that little treat for later, but we'll sip on it as well. So Juliet, was there anything else in terms of the nose that you pick out, or that standard notes maybe on that one that, oh, I'm sorry, you did not.
No, I didn't pour it.
Oh, so sorry.
That's okay.
We forgot to pour you up. I'm so sorry.
We are terrible.
We are the worst hosts, co-hosts, or whatever you want to call us. You can call us a lot of bad things now since we didn't even pour you up.
Just don't call us late for dinner. That's what I would say.
Man, we're terrible, Matt.
I don't have the nuances of street corn. I can't get into into the weeds. I find this very sweet.
Yeah.
And almost like a brown sugary sweet.
Yep, I would agree with that completely. Yeah, I like that. You know, Matt talked about the toasty coming off that oak, and a lot of times that brown sugary aroma that comes along with that. So yeah, I mean, the sweetness is what, you know, when you say it's a rye whiskey, I think, again, you have those preconceived things of, oh, it's going to be super spicy, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. But when you nose this and you get that really sweet aroma, it's like, oh, well, that's a little different, you know, something I didn't expect. So very nice. But let's jump back to you now and talk a little bit, because I made reference to the doctor. Can you tell us about your background and who you are?
Yeah, I'm an anesthesiologist. I graduated from medical school in 2000, and I finished my residency in anesthesiology in 2004. That was all up in Indianapolis at Indiana University. Sorry.
Oh, okay, guys. Thanks for joining us today on the Bourbon Life Podcast. That's the end of the show.
Maybe I should not have mentioned that.
Just kidding.
And within about 2 years of being in private practice, I knew it was something that I didn't want to do until I was 65 years old. There were some aspects of it that I really enjoy. I really love the patient interaction. I really love, feeling like I'm helping people and doing my part. But just the machine of medicine wears you down.
Sure.
It's something I think we're all hearing now from, all aspects of medicine right now. And so really for the last 14 or so years, at my last 14 of practice, I was actively looking for something else to do. And it was usually, tangential to medicine. So I did an integrative medicine fellowship.
Oh, yeah.
I learned how to do acupuncture. So I had a side business in acupuncture for a while. And never really found an ability or courage maybe to take that leap and just do something like that and leave the medicine that I did know. And so I just kept looking. And then I met my husband in 2017, and he's kind of a serial entrepreneur. He loves to write business plans and work with spreadsheets. And he dreams in Excel is what I tell people. And he said, what do you want to do? And, my interest at the time on the side, I had been interested in wine. I was interested in the science and the art that come together with that, which had kind of slowly gone into whiskey. And the same thing, like how do you make these myriad of decisions to come up with something delicious many years later?
Right.
I was just so interested in the process and really wanted to learn. And so, when we did the brainstorm, what kind of business would you want to have? We're proximal to Kentucky. So I said, I want to learn how to make whiskey.
Wow. So it's just like, were you a whiskey drinker?
Yes.
Or you were? Okay. So.
And had been probably since I was around 21.
Okay.
I started with makers and, who doesn't?
Yeah.
It was seemingly, at least in my mind, it was really kind of before any kind of craft boom started. I don't have the history books out knowing exactly when that started, but as more labels popped up and different expressions, I started getting, more into it and excited. And of course, my palate changed. And so instead of drinking it with Diet Coke, I started drinking it neat or on the rocks. And, everyone's palate adjusts. And so I just got more and more into it.
I think that's the kind of standard course for everybody. You start out drinking, for me, well, the first I ever drank was Rebel Yell back when it was still Rebel Yell. That was young. But once I got into college, Maker's Mark, if I could afford it, was the bourbon of choice, right? Mm-hmm. And you mix it with Coke or Sprite, go to a football game, hang out with fraternity brothers or whatever, and that's the way you drink whiskey. You always mixed it with something. But as you get older, your palate develops. Of course, Matt just started off with Basil Hayden drinking it neat, right? So.
I wish. No way. That was the one that taught me to drink it neat. Everything else before that was mixed with ginger ale or whatever I could find to take the cut off of the whiskey.
Yeah, like Fred No says, drink it any damn way you want, right?
Yeah.
That's really the truth. And when your palate is undeveloped and you're just learning how to drink it, it's an acquired taste. It really takes some time to get used to that. But then, like you said, as you get used to it and you get older, your palate changes and you develop that ability to drink it, on the rocks or with a little bit of water or even just drink it neat. which is the way we usually drink it. So that's what we prefer at this point. So you've done a lot in talking about education and training. I think the notes that I have on you say you've done quite a bit of training and studying education, correct? To learn how to do all this.
Whiskey, yes.
No, and medicine, yeah. You did a lot of education
not
and
as
everything.
much, but
I meant,
whiskey,
yeah. I meant for the whiskey, right?
For the whiskey, the first way I learned, and really the biggest aspect of my learning was from going to Moonshine University.
Right, yeah.
And I joke with them that I think there's only one class of theirs I haven't taken, and I want to take it now just to like complete the complete the encyclopedia.
They give you a green jacket or something. Yeah.
Finish the book on.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
yes.
Yeah, you've officially written the book on Moonshine University then, right? Yeah.
I started with the 6-day distiller's course, which it hooked me. I knew this is what I wanted to do. It reminded me of, you start day 1, you start with, you're literally grinding grains, and day 6, we're coming off the second run on the still, and we put it in a little barrel for an hour, and then we pour some out, and we get to take some home. And it just reminded me of cooking for people, baking for people. That's something I enjoy doing. I love to make something for someone, hand it to them, and watch them enjoy it. And I thought, this is going to scratch that itch for sure.
Of course, you have to wait, a few more years than just pulling that, bread out of the oven. But Matt worked in the bakery. He's working in the restaurant industry, so
quite a bit.
He can appreciate that analogy, definitely. But I think that's really cool that you took the time to do that and to learn. And from what I've heard, I don't know much about them over there, but what I've read about them, and it sounds like, you're dealing with some top quality instructors, people that are really active and very involved in the industry. Is that right?
Yes. Initially, I was very shocked at the people that taught our classes, the people that we had access to, and then it became the norm, really. But they're very well connected, and to this day, if I have a problem, I'll email them and say, "Hey, I need some help in this regard," and they'll send me connections, and I'm like, "Wow, I get a call so-and-so today," it's just like amazing.
Like a dream come true, right?
Yeah, and they consider you as family. They're like, once you've taken a class, well, we're here to help.
I think that's great, and I'd love to know how many people have gone through that are out doing their own brands, because it seems like there's a lot of people
I'm sure
that have gone through some portion of Moonshine University or done some, because they have a lot of different classes over there, right?
They do.
Like the business, you can do the distilling,
yes,
but you can also do the business, learn about the business itself.
Yes.
So you've done
operations.
You've done all of them except one, right?
Yes. The only one I haven't done is the botanicals course.
Oh yeah.
Because at this point, haven't needed it. It's fascinating. I'd love to. And Clay's a great botanicals.
You're not going to do any gin? Wait, what? learn how to do that, right?
Not yet.
So I'm just curious, the transition. Did your friends, people around you, your family, were they just like, wait a second, okay? You went to school, you trained, you did all this. Because I'm an attorney, and it took me a long time to get to that point. And I think if I left that, people would be like, what are you doing? So you obviously spent a lot more time to become an anesthesiologist. Were there people around you and in your life that were just like, hey, Juliet, what's going on here?
Well, I think people that really knew me knew that I was looking constantly for something else to do. They also know that I really, really like to learn. And so maybe they were like, oh, she's just learning. That's just something she enjoys doing. And maybe this will be a side gig or something. And I continued to work for a period of the time while I was, starting up the business when, there's not a ton to do. But then I did kind of get bumped out of practice a little sooner than I intended to because of COVID, and it had to do with I had turned in my notice and my contract was ending before COVID hit. And then when COVID hit, my contract ended, and I was going to work as needed for 2 days a week or something like that, but I didn't have a contract signed.
Gotcha.
And so when my partners weren't working and they were under contract, there's no reason I'm not going to go in there and say, hey,
I need something.
Give me some work too. So I ended up, after months of that, it was like, well, I guess I'm finished.
Yeah.
And maybe a little premature.
That can kind of be a a driving force, right? I mean, it's like okay, because you talked about it earlier, that kind of afraid to take that leap and take that whole jump.
Yes.
But then sometimes if somebody pulls that rug out or pushes you out the door, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where like, okay, I got to fly now or not.
Yeah, our first distillation was actually after COVID had started.
Okay.
And so we were doing some changing of our business plan at that time. And I think COVID did have a big role of like, well, okay, if you're not going to have a lot of work for a while, we better start making some product.
Yeah.
And knowing that we have years to wait still. So.
And we'll talk about the creation of the brand in the second round, but I'm just curious because we're drinking a rye. So your first release was a rye. Was that intentional?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process behind that?
Everything I've learned is that ryes are ready a little faster.
Right. Yeah.
And so both of my first expressions are ryes because, you know, I think there's enough flavor and complexity there to make it something that I'm proud to blend, bottle, and serve to people. And with the bourbon, we just thought we would, you know, try to wait till 4 years.
Yeah. So now, are you a rye drinker yourself? I mean, is that something?
Yes.
So are you? Oh, see, Matt, did you see that smile?
Yeah.
A woman after your own heart, man.
People that know. Come on. Rye whiskey's the real star of the bourbon industry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm beginning to believe that, you know, and I'm becoming. Matt always. He gets me into like Knob Creek. He was a huge Knob Creek fan, and I was always like, yeah, it's okay. But now I'm like this huge Knob Creek fan. And I never really was that much into rye whiskey. Matt's like, oh, rye whiskey's great. So I've started down that slope as well. So now I'm a big believer in rye whiskey. So I always like to ask, I mean, if it's something that you're a fan of, but I could tell from that smile.
Yes. Yes. And I like bourbon. I like weeded bourbon. I like rye. I think that's good for someone who's creating it to actually be able to contribute to like, you know, how I want it to taste in the end and have an opinion. And I'm like, well, I don't like that, so I'm not going to even drink it. So I think that's helpful. But rye, I don't remember what I was going to say. Something about rye.
How much you like rye? It's just one of those things you like, right?
It is. I like bolder flavors frequently, and it's definitely probably not something I drink immediately. I don't really know when I transition to it, but you know, in a lot of things, food and other drink, you know, you kind of start and then you get, well, here's an example, IPA beer. I used to hate IPA beer. And then I had this one that was just hoppy enough that I was like, I can drink this. And then that was just like the floodgates opened. And then I just started drinking IPA and like,
I've not
let's
reached
get it
that
hoppier
point.
and hoppier. And I think it's the same, you know, with a rye. And with this rye in particular, I think is a bourbon lover's rye.
Yeah.
Or both of my ryes. And I think that's the mash bill and the barrel characteristics. And that's what I wanted. I wanted a rye that rye lovers enjoy, but I wanted a rye that bourbon lovers or rye haters would say, oh, I actually like this.
I can like that, yeah. No, that makes sense. And that's what, with the mash bill combination, that 62% rye, I mean, it's a little over, you know, the typical Kentucky rye, which is 51%. So you're a little bit higher than that. But you're lower obviously than that 95, or even the Pennsylvania where you're at like the 80% or more. So yeah, it's a unique, very unique mash bill. We can talk about that a little bit more in the second round as well, how you landed on that. But believe it or not, we're at the end of round one already. But I'm curious about the IPA thing because I hate IPAs. So I mean, I have never been able to find an IPA that I enjoy just because of the hoppiness. So maybe I'll have
Bell's Two Hearted.
Yeah.
Is the entry for me. It was the entry beer for me for hops, that hoppy flavor.
That's a beautiful IPA. It really is. Bell's out of
You're not even a beer drinker.
Well, when I was.
That was it?
Yeah, because I was the same way. I was not a huge IPA guy till I had some Two Hearted, and it kind of opens things up. And I still, when I was drinking beer, I still, like, you know, not like a licking paint off the wall, like super hoppy, like bitter in the mouth kind of drinker.
Not a triple hop or something like that.
But there was something about a Two Hearted on a nice warm day.
Huh.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
Oh, thanks for sharing that. See, I learned something today. I'm going to have to give that a try because I just really, people are like, you don't like IPAs? And it's like, no, it's just that bitterness off that's not what I want from a beer. But I'll have to give that a try. Now, see, I'm going to become, next year, you'll come back and visit, and I'll have like IPAs like everywhere, right? That'll be be my jam. So, all right, guys. Well, let's take a quick break, get a word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with more with Juliet Schmalz from Fortune's Full Whiskey in just a minute.
Welcome to Old Dominick Distillery, a family-owned craft distillery nestled in the heart of downtown Memphis. Founded by descendants of Domenico Canali, a pioneering Sicilian immigrant who made Memphis his home in the late 1800s, Old Dominick is steeped in history and tradition. Old Dominick prides itself on offering a diverse selection of whiskeys to satisfy every taste. Whether you're a seasoned connoisseur or a curious newcomer, you'll find something to love, including an 85 proof Tennessee whiskey, bonded Tennessee whiskey, a single barrel Tennessee whiskey, a 90.1 proof bourbon, and coming this fall, a cask strength bourbon. Each bottle of Old Dominick whiskey is crafted with care, featuring unique mash bills that offer a variety of high and low proofs. This dedication to quality ensures there's a perfect pour for every whiskey enthusiast. Old Dominick whiskeys are proudly distributed in several states, including Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia, Arkansas, Illinois, and Mississippi. Can't find us locally? No problem. You can conveniently purchase our products online and have them delivered straight to your doorstep. Ready to explore the world of Old Dominick? Visit our website at olddominick.com to learn more about our history, discover our products, and find a retailer near you. Visit the historic James E. Pepper Distillery, located in the vibrant Distillery District in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Initially built in 1880 by Colonel James E. Pepper, one of the founding fathers of the bourbon industry, it operated until 1967 when it was shut down and abandoned for over 50 years. After a decade of historical research, the brand was relaunched and the distillery was rebuilt. Distilling resumed on-site in 2017, using the same historic bourbon recipe as when it closed in 1967. The distillery offers a selection of fine whiskeys for tasting and retail purchases, including the award-winning Decanter Bourbon. Intimate guided tours include time in the museum, an up-close look at the grain-to-glass process, and a complimentary tasting. Stop by for an old-fashioned cocktail and see why TripAdvisor ranks the Pepper Distillery as the third best distillery in Kentucky and the #1 attraction in Lexington. Learn more at jamesepepper.com.
All right, everybody, welcome back for round 2 of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live, still in the Bourbon Life Studios, it is my good friend and rye drinking buddy, my co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing, man?
See, I'm never going to live that down. Never going to live it down now that I brought it up.
My co-host. You're always my co-host, man.
I'm doing well, Mark. But thank you for the introduction as usual. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. We're having a good time tonight. I'm glad you're surprised. We have a guest with us here live in person tonight, not squad casting it tonight. So, pleasant surprise for you. It was a surprise to me when she said she'd come down. I'm like, oh, well, that's awesome, man. So, yeah, we're having a good time. Drinking some really good rye whiskey right now. So, really, really enjoying this. We'll move on with the palate and the finish on this first round, or the one we drink on the first round. But Matt, we're the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. I almost forgot that. We appreciate their support and the support of all of our sponsors. Couldn't bring the show to you guys every week without their support. So with that said, Matt, you want to tell everybody who we have with us tonight?
Absolutely. Juliet Schmalz is the CEO and founder of Fortune's Fool. I'm going to get it right. Fortune's Fool Whiskey.
You're having a hard time with that alliteration, aren't you, man?
Exactly.
The FF.
Anyway, and we've got her back. So enough of me talking here. Juliet, welcome on back to the Bourbon Life Podcast.
Thanks. Having a great time.
Are you sorry you drove down now?
Definitely not.
Oh,
That's
gosh.
very kind of you to say.
Yes, thank you very much. We're having a great time.
We appreciate it.
Yes, and I appreciate you coming all the way down to hang out with us tonight and bringing this delicious whiskey. I'm really enjoying it so far. Matt, you want to talk about the palate and the finish on this first one that we had?
Yeah, let me get back to it very quick here.
Sorry about that. See, I always put Matt on the spot. So with his awesome palate.
So to me, the rye really makes itself known on the palate with this. It's got a big, nice and bold, peppery, upfront ring right on like the tip of the tongue. It really is like awake and alive. Wakes up the palate. Good amount of cinnamon. It's like rolls through there too. Then the baking spices, like those cloves, cardamoms, like think almost like not pumpkin spice, but like along those, there's like ginger, but not fake ginger.
Yeah.
Like real ginger root in this, almost like ginger snap, like molasses type sweetness as well. A lot of good barrel influence too. There's like really nice oak, really like a nice cherry that's coming along with it as well. Kind of this like toasted, long, almost like light leather on the palate as well.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, this is 32 months old, and I'm tasting leather. I'm like, there's no way that I'm picking up leather on this. So,
And then like a nice long warm finish as well. Just drinks really well. This is great rye whiskey for a rye drinker, but also I think bridges the bourbon gap well.
yeah, but I think it drinks, to me, older, than 32 months. That's why,
Generations older.
yes, that's why I was like, this is kind of crazy. When I sampled it, I was like, I'm not sure what kind of voodoo this is, but something kind of very, very interesting has happened because 32 months for this rye whiskey, it's impressive. And I agree, Matt, on the palate, you get those nuances, those nice flavors, those baking spices. You talked about that cinnamon. It lets you know that it's a rye, but you still get that sweetness. Very approachable. If you're a bourbon drinker, obviously this would be a nice rye to kind of segue into that because you're getting that large, 30% corn. But yeah, and I kept getting that leather on the palate and the finish, little hints, and I'm like, I usually only get that on a much older whiskey, and I'm like, I thought I was just, it's like no. And then Matt, I'm glad you said that because I thought I was just kind of losing my mind. So maybe it's the Ohio River on you. I don't know what it is.
You might be losing your mind too.
Yeah,
You're getting up there.
We're both. Yeah, thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Juliet, I'm gonna turn it over to her since she's probably nicer than you're gonna be. So, anything else on the palate, on the palate and the finish on this one that sticks out?
Oh, I don't think I can add anything of value.
See, that's what I mean with Matt. It's like whatever Matt said, I'll just go with that. So let's talk about the. And if you come up with something else, you feel free to throw that in there too. But let's talk about the creation of the brand itself. So. Disillusioned with the practice of medicine. Mm-hmm. I get that. As an attorney, I'm disillusioned. Been 30 years now, and it's like I've been disillusioned for about 28 of those 30 years.
All right, yeah.
So you laugh, but it's the truth, man. That's why.
Way to stick it out, man.
Well, you know what? It's the consistency. It's it's a job, and it's a money, and it's benefits, and anything, whatever. It pays the bills, and it allows me the opportunity to do this because you talked about doing other things, and things that you're interested in or you maybe had a passion for that you could do on the side or whatever. And this is really what the Bourbon Life has become for me. It allows me that escape. So, but good for you for taking the jump to make that happen. But so let's just talk about that, the creation of the brand. I mean, how you went through that process to say, all right, I'm out and I'm going to do this full time. Can you kind of go through that?
Sure. Well, first thing we did was we found Moonshine University in Louisville, Kentucky, and
this is like a nice big commercial. Moonshine, they need to pay us some sponsorship dollars on this, and I mean, we're plugging them really good, which is great because I think it's great that they do this and have those services and training up this whole generation of distillers and creators and producers, right? So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it gave me enough information to know that I wanted to keep going, and the classes are short enough that I could take vacation and come down. Their longest class is 6 days long, and most of them are 1 to 3 days long. And so I would take vacation days and take the classes that I needed just to keep adding to, the knowledge of how to inform my husband how to write a business plan in this area and not the area it's not the area he's been working in the past. And just gave me the confidence that we could do this and get it started. And so then we built a business plan, and originally we were going to build a distillery in Indianapolis, and we were looking at buildings. This was in 2018. And, with that plan, obviously, you get a bank loan, you build a distillery, and we wanted to do it right because in our mind, it's the best or nothing, basically.
Sure.
So that's, quite a loan. And even a small distillery is quite a loan. And so the bank wants that money coming back right away. And if I want to focus on whiskey and it's an aged product, then how do I pay them? Right. And so it's are we going to make... I
got to make gin and vodka and moonshine or whatever. Rum. Yeah.
Right. I took the rum class, in preparation for something unaged. And I was like, I feel like my focus is getting out, I want to focus on whiskey. And so as we explored more and more and learned more about the industry, we realized, there's kind of three options. The option of you could build a full distillery and just go full bore, but you probably have to, do multiple expressions of spirit, you probably have to contract distill or do something to bring money in. You could source, so you can buy pre-aged, pre-produced product from someone and create your label that way. Or you could do something in the middle, contract distillation, where I get to say how I want my product to made, but I pay someone to produce that product for me, so I don't have the overhead of building another distillery, and I'm filling their contract distillation schedule. So it's kind of a win-win. They need the business, and I need someone with the skills and the equipment. And so we thought, that was a pretty great way to do it. And at least, if nothing else, it's just kind of, let's just see if this works. We could build a distillery in the future if we felt like that was something we needed to do, but this is kind of proof of concept, I guess. Let's see if it sticks. So we decided to go with contract distillation.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a big decision to go that route, because a lot of brands, when they start out, obviously building a distillery, like you said, is so cost prohibitive to so many people out there, unless you've got a billionaire uncle or somebody else, or if you're already in the industry and you can just branch out and people are just going to throw money at you to build a new brand, that's going to be almost no way for most people. Or you can source, which obviously a lot of brands do that, or you can take that contract distilling. I mean, that's a big. There are people out there doing it now, but to start a brand doing that, I mean, that's huge. That's a big step.
Yeah, because you have to figure out. You still have to wait.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
You make it and you sit and wait. And so we're still spending money, not huge amounts of money, but it's still an expensive endeavor, and money's still going out the door every month, because as soon as you produce it, now it's sitting in a rick house aging, and you're paying rent and tax and all that
everything.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was the right decision still at this point, because you can always go to phase 2 and build that distillery, or phase 3 or 4 and do that at some point. But and some people don't understand contract distilling. They think it's sourcing. It's not the same. No, I did not physically produce what we're drinking today. I think some of that's going to change in the future as to what how much I'm involved in the process, but it's not something to be ashamed of by any means.
No, not at all.
Definitely transparency is a huge part of our brand.
Awesome.
We want to teach people, we want to be transparent about where the product came from and why. Not just like we contract distill, but I love to tell people why. Here are our options, and this is what works best for us. And this is what this means. And people are always very interested in that. And, it's a great chance to teach people something.
Yeah. So let's talk about the name, Fortune's Fool. Can you tell us about the name, how you came up with that and what that significance is to you personally?
Well, one of my favorite things in the process of building this brand was working with our marketers in the brand development. It was so fun. Probably because they had to think of the things and I just had to sit back and let them
you could be
show them to me.
Yes, no, yes,
Exactly.
no, yeah.
But they were so creative and it was so interesting. And, originally they're like, let's call it Juliet. And I said, absolutely not. Because my name is Juliet. It is not necessarily unique, but it's something that, people are, it's not just Julie, it's Juliet.
Sure.
I've been teased about that name since day one, and so I jokingly say I finally capitalized on having the name Juliet. So what we came up with is a Romeo and Juliet themed brand, and Fortune's Fool comes from a line in the play. Romeo exclaims, "Oh, I am Fortune's Fool," which immediately makes me think of now whiskey, but also racehorse. I think that's a great racehorse name.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you didn't name it after like another Romeo and Juliet line, like "Call me But Love." Call your brand But Love. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, Matt! Wow.
That's my one dumb joke for the night. Hopefully, my one dumb joke for the night. Sorry.
Off the rails completely on that one. That's
Please
great.
Continue.
Please continue.
Someone else, please.
So that's where the name came from. We thought it sounded like a great name for a whiskey brand. And then, all the other details of our brand are around theater, Romeo and Juliet, Shakespeare. On my business card, for example, it says second act because it is my second act.
Oh, yeah. Nice.
And we have a custom bottle that's coming out in 2025 with a lot of symbolism of theater and Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah, and we'll talk about it probably in the third round. We'll show that. That's awesome. So, Matt, we're actually over halfway through. Let's jump over to this next whiskey that we've got poured up. And this one, if you want to tell us about this one, Juliet, what we're going to have on this?
Yep, this is the Overture. It is a straight rye whiskey as well. It is aged 3 years, 3 months from the same distillation as the Prelude.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So 7 months longer. This is a 30-barrel dump. Again, I wanted it to taste like rye, but not be something that a bourbon lover wouldn't like. And I also wanted it to taste different from the Prelude because I knew our first 2 releases were going to be ryes. And sometimes people are like, well, what's different about it? I'm like, it just has a completely different flavor profile. So it is a different product.
And in terms of like the naming profile, so again, Fortune's Fool, kind of Shakespearean, Juliet. This is, the first one was the Prelude. This is the Overture.
Yes.
So keeping in that.
We're keeping it in that theme, and it's also as like an introduction because they are in our stock bottle. And it's like an intro to before we get to our custom bottle.
Right, yeah, which makes sense. Matt, let's talk about this, the Overture here that we've got poured up. And what was the proof on this one?
109.6, so it's, or 109.4, so it's almost exactly the same.
Just like 0.2 of a point lower, right? So almost exactly the same.
Yep.
So, and even the color to me looked.
But yeah, before we even got to that, I was just gonna, like the color difference on the two, that extra 7 months, has made such a difference in the colors. It's just got a beautiful burnt auburn, almost like ochre type color to it, really rich. But the nose is full of barrel influence, I think. There's like big cherry, red fruit really jumps out at me on this, kind of like those plums, fig, almost like there's a touch of bright sweetness, like nectarine type note, or like a kind of a sweeter tree fruit on there as well. Good influence from the barrel, that oak, the kind of those like smoky wood chip notes come across on it as well before the rye comes in with that sweetness, that mint really like brighten up a lot of the darker notes on the nose. I really like the way the rye notes, the sweetness, like that spearmint, like the mint syrup again, really awaken this. It's like fresh mint right off the plant.
Yeah. I get that, the cherry notes you're talking about. I get that, talking about the brown sugar again, like almost like a burnt brown sugar. It reminds me, it's almost like a cherry crumble where you've got like the brown sugar that's been really maybe almost over baked. It's very almost burnt, but it's that just delicious, taste with a little cherry with the mint mixed in as well. It's almost very just dessertish to me on the nose. And again, I think that was the one thing that really surprised me when I got to sample it, was just like, this is 36 months old. I mean, I just don't understand how. It's crazy.
39.
39, I'm sorry. Okay, a little bit over.
To be specific.
Gotcha. I was off by 2 months, but yeah, just and it is completely different than the first one. Just those few months different. The color, like Matt said, but the nose, the aroma, everything is just completely different. But still, you get those notes, like Matt said, that rye that does come through, but very sweet. This one to me is even sweeter, just more almost dessert-like. The oak smokiness comes through as well. So very nice. Anything else on that you want to throw out or that stands out to you?
I think to me, I smell less of the sugary sweet and more fruity sweet.
Okay. Yeah. And Matt talked about that, like the tree fruits or all sorts of different fruits in there, right? It's a cornucopia.
Yeah,
fruits.
Right. A veritable fruit basket.
Veritable. So let's talk about in terms of the blends, because you mentioned earlier the first one, the Prelude, was 10 barrels. This one was 30. So obviously a triple size, right? So can you talk about that? Was that just from the fact that, hey, I'll just explain it.
We started with the 10-barrel blend because brand new, we only distributed in Indiana.
Okay.
And, just wanted to dip our toe in the water and see how it went. And we worked pretty hard with kind of pre-sales. Even before we had a distributor, we went around to some bars and some liquor stores, and we just took single barrel samples because we didn't have our blend yet, and said, this is our brand, and do you want to try some of these single barrel samples? And kind of tried to get people thinking about it, so that when we did, we had a little release party and had really great sales.
Yeah.
And sold that pretty quickly. So we knew that we wanted to step it up on volume for our second release. And we also were hoping to expand into other states, and we're in Kentucky and Indiana with this product.
Right.
Yes.
So obviously reaching out more states, got to have more product, obviously, to make that happen, right? So yeah, very, very nice. Still just, gosh, it's just like so dessert-like to me, sweet fruit, like you said, just so nice. So on the blending process when you're doing this, was there a particular, in your mind, because you liked rye whiskey, was there something that you had in mind when, on both of these, the Prelude and the Overture, was there something that you were shooting for? Or was it more of, okay, here's 10 barrels we're going to use on this and 30 on this. Let's kind of just see where they lead us. Was there a difference on that?
Well, we had our blender, kind of inventory, we had 70 barrels at the oldest, from the oldest distillation.
Okay.
So she inventoried those, and then we were saying, we're interested in about a 10-ish barrel blend. And then, so she just kind of came up with, after talking to her about I definitely wanted it to not be overly spicy, and I wanted to have some sweetness come through and be a balanced rye. Then she sent me maybe 3 samples, and we would Zoom and taste them together, and then discuss where we wanted to go with that. So then let's work with this one. And then, she would send me a few more, and then we eventually got to the blend that we have.
Yeah, very, very nice. Really, really like this. So you started this, so the first release came out last year, right? The Prelude was
October.
Okay, so it's 23. You said you'd started the company, I guess, 2018 or 19. Obviously, you've been in preparation, figuring things out. But this was all going on during COVID as well, right?
Yes,
So
yes.
Can you talk about maybe a little of the challenges that you had with that?
I think the challenges with COVID are, one, everything's email. You can't go visit, your distiller. You can't go watch the process. There was a wood shortage at some point for barrels, so there was a period of time we didn't produce because we couldn't get the barrels we wanted. There was the glass shortage.
Glass, yes. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah. People talk about that.
We had an original rendition of our custom bottle, and our producer for the custom bottle was in Spain. And once there was a glass shortage, they tripled the minimum quantity, MOQ, the minimum order quantity. And, just it got crazy.
Yeah.
So that's why our custom bottle's not ready.
Gotcha.
So we had to switch and go, search for another producer, and we've got this mold. It's actually better than the first one, so that's kind of nice, and it turned out even nicer. So then when we did have a product we wanted to release, we had to figure out, let's find this stock bottle and, try to make it look nice, because again, it's all quality, so we didn't want to just dump it into anything.
And I forgot to ask, retail, what is retail on these?
The Prelude runs between $39.99 and $44.99, depending on what store you go to.
Wow. I know. Matt was thinking it's going to be like $120 or something.
I was not expecting that.
In all
price
honesty,
point.
though, that was our distributor in Indiana setting the price, and we were like, we need it to be a little higher, but they were the distributor, so, and we had no say, and so we kind of, we're the newbie.
Right,
so
right.
Honestly, it would have been nice to have it a few more dollars higher.
Sure.
And then so there is a little bit of a jump with the Overture. The Overture we were hoping would be between $57.99 and $59.99. And it does seem to be sticking to that, and maybe a little bit even less here in Kentucky. But in Indiana, there's several places that have it in the low 60s, which we wanted it under $60.
But I mean, it's still a great price.
Yeah, I mean, we've not even gotten to the palate yet, which we're saving for the third round.
Say that for the third round, Matt. Don't jump the gun on me.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Great for the price.
I don't know. That's why I loved it. I mean, I can't wait to see when I do the video and the editing and see his face when I asked that question, when you answered that, because he's like, wait, what? Another surprise for Matt tonight, right?
A night full of surprises.
Yeah, because I thought, I was doing some research and looking, and you may have told me before, what the retail was, and I saw that, I thought I saw it right around 39, right? And I was like, that can't be right. I mean, it can't be right for what you've got, but...
Well, it's on our website right now. We have about 10 bottles left of this, I think, online and I think the price is in the low 50s.
Yeah, okay.
But that was partly because we had a little more control over that versus, when it hit the shelves.
Which, I mean, because this day and age, 100 is the new 50, so that's such a reasonably priced product, no question about it. So I think we're at a good point to take a little break. So why don't we do that? Take a break, get a word from our sponsors. We'll come back with more with Juliet Schmalz with Fortune's Full Whiskey in just a minute.
Three Chord's line of whiskeys embody the spirit of creativity. The whiskey is a true collaboration between producer and composer Neil Giraldo and master blender distiller Ari Sussman. The Three Chord team of expert blenders, coopers, and sensory professionals have developed a multi-step process they call Perfectly Tuned Taste. This process begins by carefully selecting the finest bourbon and rye whiskeys from Kentucky, Tennessee, and Indiana, and then blending them together. Find out more about the whiskeys and distribution in your area at www.threechordbourbon.com.
Hey there, I'm Carrie Van Winkle, founder of Pappy & Company, where we celebrate family heritage and Southern craftsmanship. Check out our curated collection of artisanal goods that embody the spirit of Kentucky. From our signature barrel-aged pepper sauce aged in Pappy Van Winkle bourbon barrels to our luxurious leather goods inspired by generations of tradition, each item reflects our commitment to quality and legacy. Our line of gourmet food items are thoughtfully selected to bring the taste of the South to your table. Indulge in what I can say is the best bourbon barrel-aged maple syrup on the planet. A perfect blend of buttery rich flavors that elevate any dish or cocktail. We're big fans of the Bourbon Life Podcast, and we're honored to share the legacy of our great-grandfather Pappy Van Winkle with all of you. So visit pappyco.com for 15% off your purchase with code BourbonLife15.
All right, everybody, welcome back for the third and sadly final round of the Bourbon Life Podcast. I'm your host, Mark, and with me here live tonight, still here in the Bourbon Life Studios, is my good friend and co-host, Matt. Matt, how you doing, man?
Mark, I'm still here. I'm doing great.
Thanks for not leaving, man. I appreciate that.
Oh, wouldn't dream of it.
Yeah, what can you say? You owe me, man. No, I'm just kidding. I was out there. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday just to drive to Louisville to watch you race your Ironman. So you owe me, man. Come on.
I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning just to race that Ironman so that you could drive over there and watch me.
I appreciate that, man. That was a lot of fun. We're having fun. Speaking of having fun, having a good time tonight with our guest here live in the studios who graciously drove quite a ways to join us here. So we're very appreciative of that. We are the Bourbon Life Podcast presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support and the support of all of our sponsors. Like I said before, we can't bring you the show each week without their support. So thank you to all of our sponsors for that. Matt, with that said, man, let's jump right into it. Tell everybody who we have with us tonight.
That's right. Back for the final round is the CEO and founder of Fortune's Full Whiskey, Juliet Schmalz. Juliet, welcome on back for sadly our final round.
Darn it.
Can I just say how proud I am of Matt for nailing the name?
I know.
I was going to say that.
I did it. Got the name. I think I got everything in that one right. I'm like, I'm done. I'm kicking my feet up. I'm done. My part of the show's over.
Matt's out. That's it. He's done.
No, wait, I still got to do tasting notes.
You have to give notes. Yeah, write them down if you're going to leave. Just go ahead and write those down so you got your tasting notes, Matt.
Yeah, finally made it through one here.
Congratulations. But we are having a great time. Thank you so much, Juliet, for coming down and joining us in person. It makes the show so much more fun for us to have our guests here with us. So we really, really appreciate that. Yeah, and we're drinking some great whiskey here, too. And priced wonderfully as well.
Quite wonderfully.
as Matt found out just a few minutes, we both actually just found out. Because like I said, I saw it online and I wasn't sure. I was like, there just can't be right. But there you go, right? So
we talked earlier, I got just a quick question. In the second round, or something maybe you can tell our listeners a little bit about. In the second round, we talked about the ways you could build a distillery, you could contract distill, or you could source. Obviously, the quickest way to revenue would be to source product, and you very easily could have sourced something and made your releases while your contract distillate was aging, but you chose not to go that route.
Correct.
And I assume that was purposeful.
It was. I know a lot of people do it, and that's great. I drink it. I think for me, it was taking away from that, I baked this pie for you. And it's more like, well, I went to the store and bought this pie and brought it to dinner.
What a great analogy.
And I'm not trying to knock it, because people do that, and there's good pies out there. But for me, that was a big part of it for me, is I want to play a role in it. And actually, I want to be more active than I currently am, which is the plan. So that was, I told my husband that, and he said, well, we'll figure this out.
Yeah, because then you also don't have that changeover from sourced to your product, which some we've seen in the past. Yeah. Some distilleries have done really well and really gracefully, and others, it seems like kind of a royal flop.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind, like how
to make that transition, right?
Yeah.
It's like, here's somebody else's product. Oh, by the way, now here's our product. It's like, yeah.
Right. I couldn't conceptualize how that could be possible, so we just avoided it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we've kind of hinted around about, we should probably talk about that palate and finish, I think, on this one, Matt.
Okay.
Shouldn't we? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Just go ahead and tell us, Matt, what you pick up as you take that drink,
So this is a lot where I think the Prelude was a little more spicy and bold right up front, like more of those rye spices, more of that heat. This, the Overture to me, brings in like bold flavors, those like red wine fruits, kind of those like cherries, currants, blackberries transfer more. There's like those rich fruit notes, like that plum that we were talking about, almost like macerated cherries, or like some sort of like a savory jam type note on it as well. Then the rye comes through and brightens it up. Almost has like rosemary or other like nice herbal notes to it as well, before a little bit of that heat and the cinnamon, kind of the spice, almost like mulled wine type spice and like flavor on the finish. And just the oak from the barrels really rounds it out well. It's got that like nice toasty oak, good char flavor on the finish as well. Just like a really nice, flavorful, complete drinking rye whiskey.
Yeah, and I still get that hint of leather off of it. So
yeah.
Do you get that? Okay. So it's not just me. I just wanted to make sure. But I agree, Matt. I mean, the fruitiness on this one, you talked about that on the nose, that more fruit forward. The palate, I agree. You get that nice fruitiness that comes through. I love the fact that the rye spice shines through, and you kind of get that combination, almost like a competition. There's spice and there's sweet. And it's like, oh, it's spicy, and it's like, no, wait, it's sweet. Your palate kind of goes back and forth a little bit. For me, it did. And then that finish with that little hint of leather, again, making me think I'm drinking a whiskey that's much, much older than 39 months old. So anything else on that, Juliet, in terms of the palate and the finish?
I love the finish on this.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, sometimes, because there's some spice and you get the little like tingliness, but it's not a burn. And then, sometimes you take a drink of a whiskey and it burns down your throat. Like it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But it just kind of slowly lingers, and it's almost like
yeah,
alive. I don't know. It's just,
I get it.
Wonderful.
And I won't go into, anyway, I was going to go into, I'm not even going to go into it. We'll talk about it off camera. Anyway, let's talk about the barrels themselves, because I think the barrels are really having a significant influence, like Matt's been talking about, on this flavor. But we talked about it earlier, kind of the Rolls Royce of barrels. I mean, really high-end barrels. Can you talk about those?
Yes. We thought, with my education, what people were teaching us, that how important the barrel is, obviously, to the outcome of what the product is, that might be an area where we would invest money and kind of stand out, because we know that a lot of places, they're making way too much product to use these super high quality barrels, or others are using them for maybe a single barrel here and there, or some kind of experiment or blending. And we thought, well, what if we just put all of our whiskey, because we're not producing very much. We've been producing about 300 barrels a year. All of our whiskey in the best barrels we can get. And that seemed like a great idea. And so we asked some people, anyone that would answer the question that was in the industry. if money was no object and you could put your whiskey in any barrel, what would you use? And it became pretty clear that we needed to go find out what Sagamore in Napa, California was all about. So we got a hold of them and went and toured the facility, and I think it is exactly what we were looking for.
So now, I'm not familiar with them. Can you talk a little bit about who they are and what their processes are?
Yes, their first cooperage was in Cognac, France.
Okay.
And I think that was maybe 100 years ago. It's really old.
Okay.
And so they did cognac and wine barrels forever. And about 30 years ago, they built a cooperage in Napa, California.
Okay.
Makes sense. And then about 18 or so years ago, they started doing whiskey barrels.
Oh, okay.
And very traditional cooperage methods. So they only use oak fire to bend the staves, and then also to char and toast. So there's no gas, there's no steam. And I was lucky enough to go to their mill in Arkansas in December and learned a lot about, their process. And they tell me that they know what trucks in Arkansas are going to their mill just by looking at the tree that's on the truck.
And you guys, there's a video, right, on the website? Isn't there a video? Okay.
We do have about a 3-minute video about just our relationship with Sagamore, and it interviews the manager there, and then the head cooper has a great accent, so it seems really legit. And just to brag a little bit, that video won an Emmy.
Oh, did it really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like a regional.
But still.
Yeah. So I have an Emmy with my name on it, which is, who knew that was even something
very cool.
you could strive for. But
Yeah.
I wasn't striving for it, but I have that. And so it's a very cool video. And especially if you like whiskey, because there's lots of fire, and it's just really aesthetically pleasing to watch.
So you said 13, 16 years ago, they started doing barrels for whiskey. Are there other American whiskey brands that are using them then, or do you know, is it like Scotch or Irish whiskey, or is it American brands that are using them?
I think there's all kinds of people that are using them, but I don't know. I only know of 2 that may be using them exclusively or almost exclusively, other than us, and they're on the West Coast.
That's what I was going to say, because I wasn't familiar with them at all, so just kind of surprised, because you think all these cooperages and all these barrel sources, and it's like, oh, that's one I'm not familiar with. So
probably wine people would be like, oh yeah, we know those guys because they've been around forever, and that's what they're classically known for.
Yeah, okay, which makes sense.
Yeah, so they have an eye for quality because they're in a different world making wine barrels, right? So they kind of kept that eye for quality when they picked up the whiskey barrel production as well. So they do all kinds of. To me, the traditional methods in the cooperage are exactly what I want, but then they use science in just the right way. So they test every log that comes under their mill. They take samples of every log, and they suspend it in water, and I think they ship it to Cognac, France. I might be wrong on that. And then they all get separated into high and low aroma, and when it goes through the mill, one end is painted so they know which is high and which is low aroma. And then they determine what's the best use for this piece of wood based on the chemical profile of that tree.
Gotcha.
And so they're getting into some specifics.
Yeah.
And then our specific barrels, once the staves are cut, they go to Missouri and sit out for 24 months in open air. So you're, getting the tannins washed out. You're getting all the
mushrooms on there,
growth in there, and anything to help that whiskey have more contact with the wood and have more chemical interactions. And then when it does go to the cooperage, we go to those traditional methods, and our not our rye barrels, but our bourbon and wheated bourbon barrels are even a little bit better than our rye barrels, where those staves are tested. Again, like this piece of wood cannot become a bourbon barrel stave. It's called an icon stave, unless it has the right chemical profile that you're going to get a lot of vanillin and some of the other flavors from the lignin that you want in a bourbon. So I think perfect use of chemistry in my mind.
Sure, yeah.
And then when you're actually making the barrel, then you're going back in time, and it's awesome. It's a great product.
So they are truly the Rolls Royce, the handmade
Yeah.
vehicle to deliver your whiskey.
Yes.
I mean, it's pretty impressive. So now, beyond the barrel, though, you've got these wonderful bottles that you're going to be using for your upcoming other releases. And we'll talk about those releases here in a few minutes. But can you talk about the bottle that you have there?
Yep. So if I hold it here, is that good enough, you think?
Yeah, I can
Okay.
see it, yeah.
So obviously no label on it yet, but it's a custom bottle that is going to give a lot of nods to Shakespeare, to Romeo and Juliet, to theater. Got some curtain kind of look here. It's 7-sided, which, you know,
Okay.
when the mold is 2 halves, it makes it kind of weird. So there's 3 bigger sides and 4 that are a little bit smaller, but that has to do with luck. It's got a really, really
Wow,
cool
very
foot.
ornate.
There's words. There's 7 F words across the bottom. I joke that my favorite one is not one of them, but they're all alluding to Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, and theater. And so there'll be a medallion on this little circle here that's similar to the medallion in the Overture on the Overture bottle. But
It's a
little
beautiful,
fancier.
beautiful bottle. So that your marketing team, or is that who helped you come up
Yes.
with that? Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted that just to prove, again, this is a quality brand. I wanted people, you know, when they're wanting, you know, I'm wanting them to pick up my product to say, look, we're really thinking about, you know, the details and we have passion for what we're doing. And, you know, it'll look really nice. I want people to walk into a liquor store or walk into a bar and that's Fortune's Fool. You don't
It
have to
stands
see the
out,
label.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. I mean, it's a gorgeous bottle. And will the labeling be similar to what you have now, or will it?
It'll look similar. There'll be a small front label, and then the back label will be kind of covered two sides.
Yeah, but still, I mean, just gorgeous bottling. I mean, that's very nice. So
Thanks.
now moving forward, you may be working with someone that people are familiar with in terms of blending, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, now that you have approval to talk about that?
So I was looking for a blender, and Jane Bowie was recommended to me by Ashley Barnes.
Oh, yeah. 2 of my favorites.
Yeah, no, I mean, talk about
You
two
can't-
powerhouses.
Honestly, man, in the same sentence. Throwing them, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, again, this shows you, I was introduced to Ashley Barnes through, you know, my connections with just taking classes at Manchester
Yeah,
University. And
yeah.
I didn't meet her in person until this past weekend, but I've, you know, met her and talked to her, and she was a little too busy for me.
Okay.
Maybe in the future, we can work together. But she said, you know, Jane and Denny are, you know, building this distillery, but she might have time in the meantime before this distillery is up and running. So contacted her and went and sat in Denny's kitchen and talked to them for a while, and they're both just wonderful people. And so we're hoping to work on my next blend, which will be the bourbon.
Nice.
Together.
Very nice. Well, I mean, you're lucky you survived the 2 of them together, because you get
It
those
was
2.
fantastic.
You get those 2 together, and it's like you have no idea what's gonna. I mean, it's like a brother and a sister.
I was
almost,
just gonna say
you
that.
know?
I thought they were siblings. It seemed
Seriously,
like
they the way that they pick at each other, and Jane gives it right back, and it's funny because we've had them on the show, had them here just last year, right? Was it
Yeah,
last
I
year?
think probably would have been early last year.
Yeah, right after they had announced everything coming up, and but yeah, we love both of those guys, so they're awesome. But yeah, Jane's just a wonderful person. I saw her this weekend, as a matter of fact, at Beam at their 90th anniversary celebration. Think the world of her. So that's awesome. You got somebody.
yeah.
I think that's definitely. I mean, obviously, what you've already put out is high quality, and I think
Agreed.
Jane will definitely continue that for you.
sure,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
very very nice.
And her plan is to teach me to blend. I am very skeptical that I would ever
No,
have
that's
that
it.
kind of skill. But she and Denny are both. Denny's like, she can teach you. I'm thinking, really? So if that works, that's great. But obviously,
Yeah.
my quality control, like if I can't do it, I just as soon let the experts do it. And I don't think I'll ever be an expert.
I
in
think women, you know, with something about their palates, it's just, it's like whole next level, I think. And not to take any away from us poor guys, but, you know, we talk about Ashley and Jane. Ashley, I forgot her last name. Not Marianne Eves.
Marianne Eves, yeah.
I mean, same thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
high quality blenders, just incredible palettes as well. So yes, if they say that they can help you, then I would not hesitate to believe that. So that's awesome, though. I mean, you got a great person that's going to be working with you. So talking about the future, can you tell us a little bit about in terms of releases that are going to be coming up? Because you mentioned bourbon, working with Jane as well for that, I assume.
Yeah. Our oldest bourbon barrels that have been aging we're turning 4 January 1, and so we were wanting to put out a 4-year bourbon in our custom bottle that will be ready by then, and so that'd be like a nice big release to do that all at once. We also have a wheated bourbon mash bill. That would be probably not next year. I mean, they turn 4 in August of next year, so they just turned 3, and wheated is a little finickier, so we've kind of just let it rest for a while. Also new plans. We have a new distiller, and excuse me, our wheated bourbon this year is going to be produced by Samrock at Bluegrass Distilling.
Yeah, okay.
And so they will be making our product.
Yeah.
And the great thing about them is he said I can come on down and be a part of the process.
Awesome.
And learn, and that's where I've always wanted to be. So.
Yeah, and I went to law school with Sam. I've known Sam
I did not know that.
Oh yeah. I've known Sam forever. He's an attorney.
I did know that.
Yeah. Sam, we were in law. He was a year or two behind me at UK, but yeah,
Okay.
I've known Sam forever. He's been on the show twice now, at least.
Yes.
2 or 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I love those guys, and they moved just now, obviously from Lexington out to Midway, and have done a ton of work out there as well. So we're really excited for them and pulling for them. So I'm happy. I don't know if you told me that, or maybe if you did, I forgot it. But I'm glad that you're going to be working with them. So that'll be great, because I think they do a wonderful job. So that'd be great to be working with them, and they'd be able to be hands-on, right? So what I wanted all along. Yeah.
Awesome.
That'll be great. Yeah. So that'll be a lot of fun. So any other things in the future coming up? You kind of talked about, you hinted a few times in terms of, not hinted, but you just said, yeah, we thought about building a distillery, but decided against it. So is that something that long term that you think would be, are you comfortable, I mean, with the way things are going with contract distilling?
I think probably that's probably not going to happen.
Okay.
I have a plan in my head where I want things to go. I would like, well, first of all, we don't have a brick and mortar in Indianapolis yet, and we need one.
Yeah, okay.
So we're in the process of, we haven't broken ground yet, but we're hoping in the next little over a year we'll have a place where we can do bottle sales and tasting room and a bar and a little bit of food in the Fishers area, if you're familiar with, it's like northeast of Indianapolis.
Yep.
Kind of a nice bustling area.
Okay.
That's the first step. And the second step for me would be to build a rick house. And so I could age, blend, and bottle up there and just keep producing here, but age, blend, and bottle in Indianapolis. Now, I don't know if that'll ever happen. And then the next step after that would be distillery. That's my, if I was dreaming big and, I don't play the lottery, but if I won the lottery, maybe that would happen. But that's just kind of how I think of the progression going. But, honestly, I really love the partners down here. I love to be a part. And oh, darn, I have to go to Kentucky.
Dang, I hate when that happens.
And it's kind of great because in Indianapolis, it's my brand. In Indiana, it's, an Indiana Natives brand. But it's got the legitimacy of a Kentucky product. So in Kentucky, it's it's made here, it's aged here, it's bottled here.
Right.
And up there, it's, an Indiana Native brand. So I think it's kind of a nice,
you get the best of,
little,
as Hannah Montana would say, you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, I think so. So I don't really see a whole lot changing in the future as far as that goes.
Gotcha.
I do need to add a product. And I know this is a bourbon podcast, but just FYI, when we dumped our 30 barrels of the Overture, we shipped them to Tequila, Mexico.
Ooh, okay.
And we're contract distilling with a distillery down there.
Really?
And we're making tequila.
Oh, yeah. That's another rabbit hole that I've kind of started burrowing my way down.
Yep. The barrel is so good. And the thought of just like refilling it and having a whiskey product that's going to sit in a rick house for 8 years plus,
Right.
over and over and over again, we thought we got to find something else to do with these wonderful barrels. And, the next obvious thing to us is tequila. For one, you can get a reposado within a year.
Yeah, within a year, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you can reuse the barrel more than once. And so it's a new world. Like, I've got a lot of learning. I took the tequila class at Moonshine University.
Dang. You need to take the botanicals and just go ahead and do a barrel-aged gin next, Yeah. I mean, come on.
Maybe that's the reason I should take the botanicals course. So, that's what we're doing.
So any idea, like, time frame, or is there a time frame on that at all? Or
we don't have one yet.
Yeah, okay.
Our first plan would be to go down there. They're pulling samples every 2 months so we can get an idea of where it's going, and then we'll figure out when it's time to blend.
Well, anytime you need anybody to sample any of those samples, you just let me know.
In the meantime, I'm trying to learn tequila. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's I'm trying to learn it too. Learn how not to drink too much of it. Learn how to not get in a fight after I drink it. There's a lot of learning with tequila for me. So, no, I'm just kidding. I've learned how to pace myself as I've gotten older. So, well, we are sadly at the end of the show here. I mean, that was quick. But before we go, I always like to ask our guests, what has been so far in this journey, the whiskey journey you're on? What's been your favorite part so far?
I think the relationships, like the people I've been able to meet, the more I'm in it, the more I want to be in this industry. And, I live in Indiana, and we've got some distilleries going on there, and we're getting together. We have an Indiana Distillers Guild now, and so we're getting together and like kind of working together on advocacy and some things like that. I like every aspect of the culture and the people, and I just want to keep delving in and meeting more people and forming more relationships.
That's a very popular answer.
Is it?
The people. It seems like the people, really. Yeah. And I agree. I mean, just what we do. I mean, that's the best part, getting to meet people like you. I mean, we enjoy being able to do it week after week, just to hang out with fun people that are passionate as well at what they do. So, and you obviously are. So it's nice to see that. So, any final thoughts, Juliet, before we wrap it up tonight?
I don't think so. I just really appreciate that you gave me a call and spent the time with me tonight.
Well, we appreciate you coming all the way down to do that. I mean, like I said, it was a surprise when you're like, "Yeah, I'll just come down in person." I'm like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah, it's so fun. I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Matt, any final thoughts from you, man, before we wrap it up tonight?
Juliet, thank you so much for taking the time, coming down here to Kentucky and sitting down with us and all of our listeners to talk about your product, Fortune's Fool, and what you've been doing. It's great to see people that really take that step and go and follow that weird back of the mind, kind of that dream that we all have that just sits there, and to see it done, and not just making a brand, but being so concerned and so wanting to be involved with what's in the glass, and from all the way through, and just wanting to get deeper and deeper into it. It's really great to see that the brand's in good hands, and those are yours.
Awesome.
And so
Thanks.
It's we're super excited to see what you've got coming up.
Great.
Yeah, definitely, and that's what.
Thank you.
Getting the opportunity to meet you a month or so ago, and then getting to taste what you're doing. I mean, and I could tell just the passion and maybe a kindred spirit in terms of dissatisfaction with job. I mean, honestly, I think there was kind of had that connection from that point of view. So understanding kind of where you're coming from, but to appreciate the level of passion that you have for it, and it came through in our conversation. And then once I was able to taste the product as well, it was like, I know that you're committed. It's not just, hey, I just want to do something different and have some fun and make some whiskey and I'm going to throw this out there. I mean, you've obviously taken the time and effort to do everything top notch. You do, the packaging, the labeling, the bottles, the barrels. I mean, everything you're doing, you can tell you're committed to it. And I loved your analogy about, I could show up at your house and I could go to the store and buy a pie, or I could bake it myself for you. And I love that analogy. Nobody's ever said that before. And I think that speaks volumes as to your passion and who you are and what you want to do in the whiskey world. So I respect that tremendously. And as someone who has that tug to want to, take that step of faith, I admire you for doing that. So congratulations to you for that. And like Matt said, we're looking forward to seeing what else you all do, especially working with Jane. I'm excited about that. I think that's going to be awesome. So
Yes, it is.
great. All right. Well, with that said, I'm going to wrap it up. This is the Bourbon Life Podcast, of course, presented by Liquor Barn. We appreciate their support. We appreciate the support of all our sponsors. And like Matt says, whatever time of day it is, morning, noon, or night, whenever it is you get your Bourbon Life fix on, we appreciate you guys joining us and supporting us. Obviously, we do the show week after week for you all, and we appreciate the fact that you join us to listen into what we do, and appreciate that support. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can email us at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. We have our private Facebook group, The Bourbon Lifers. We'd love to have you jump in there and join us. Also, don't forget Big Chief, or Big Tex, as Matt likes to call him, doing the Whiskey Trip podcast. That comes out every Tuesday under our umbrella. So be sure to check out Mike on Facebook and Instagram, as well as the Whiskey Trip. Check out his show every Tuesday. He's doing some great stuff, got some great guests. So check that out. And again, thanks for just joining us. We appreciate that very much. And with that said, I'm going to wrap it up, send us home with our tagline, which is, may your glasses always be full, and may you keep on living the bourbon life.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Bourbon Life Podcast. Our mission at the Bourbon Life is simple: to share our passion for all things bourbon with you every week. And we'd really love to hear your thoughts on how we're doing. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Bourbon Life. You can also contact us by email at thebourbonlife@gmail.com. And you can always find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you have a moment, we'd love it if you would rate us and give us a review. So until next week, we hope your glass is always full and that you keep on living the bourbon life.
Welcome to the kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company, where every visit is a celebration of tradition and flavor. Did you know that the kitchen table is nestled right within the heart of the distillery? That's right. You can experience the essence of James B. Beam's legacy while savoring their delectable dishes. Join them every Wednesday through Sunday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for a culinary journey like no other. Planning a special event? Let the kitchen table be your host, creating unforgettable memories for you and your guests. And don't miss their exclusive Behind the Beam tour and monthly Claremont Supper Club events, which will feature a top secret release at the September event. For more information and reservations, visit beamdistilling.com. The kitchen table at James B. Beam Distilling Company. Come as a friend, leave as family.